little friends, I am so glad to be talking to you today again, and I'm so glad that we are going to be doing another video. And I hope that you enjoyed the last video of Noah and the great flood, that it had such a beautiful ending, my friends, that Noah was saved and his family and all the animals that were in the ark. But today I have a new story that I want to share with you, and this is the story of Daniel. Now Daniel was one of the young Hebrew boys who was in Israel when Babylon, they took Israel in captivity, and Daniel was one of the boys that the king took in his palace to work there. But let me tell you the story of Daniel.
Dear little friends, I want to tell you the history about Israel and Babylon. Babylon was a country. Israel also was a country. Israel was the nation of God because they served the Lord God. But after some time, they didn't serve God anymore and they started to do wrong things. And so God allowed Babylon to take them as prisoners into Babylon, into the country of Babylon. And there was 4 young men amongst them, whose names was Daniel, Meshach, Abednego, and Shadrach. And Daniel was one of the people who was working also in the king's palace, and he was doing his work so well. He didn't steal, he didn't lie, but he did everything well, and the king loved Daniel. There were other people of Babylon who were working also at the king's palace, and they didn't like Daniel because the king liked Daniel. So they devised a plan on how to get rid of Daniel. I'm going to tell you now how God destroyed their evil plan. The story of Daniel in the den of lions. Darius the king appointed 122 rulers to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. Now Daniel was the best ruler in the whole kingdom, and the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. At this, the administrators and the other rulers tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they could not find anything because Daniel didn't do anything wrong. He didn't steal or lie, but he did everything that was right in the eyes of God. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men said, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God." So these administrators and rulers went as a group to the king and said, "May King Darius live forever." The royal administrators, prefects, rulers, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue the decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be changed. So King Darius put the decree in writing. Now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room, where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Then these men went as a group and found Daniel praying and asking God for help. So they went to the king and spoke to him about his royal decree. "Did you not publish a decree that during the next 30 days anyone who prays to any god or human being except to you, your majesty, would be thrown into the lion's den?" The king answered, "The decree stands in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be changed." Then they said to the king, "Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you, your majesty, or to the decree you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day." When the king heard this, he was greatly distressed. He was determined to rescue Daniel and made every effort until sundown to save him. Then the men went as a group to King Darius and said to him, "Remember, your majesty, that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no decree or edict that the king issues can be changed." So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. Then the king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any music being played, and he could not sleep. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Daniel answered, "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den. And when Daniel was lifted from the den, no wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. At the king's command, the men who had falsely accused Daniel were brought in and thrown into the lion's den, along with their wives and children. And before they reached the floor of the den, the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Then King Darius wrote to all the nations and peoples of every language in all the earth, "May you prosper greatly. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He had rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian.
Friends, little friends, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I am so glad that God saved Daniel from the lion's den. You see, my little friends, Daniel was a good young boy, a good young man. Daniel didn't do anything wrong. He didn't steal, he didn't lie, he did everything right in the king's palace, and therefore all those people that didn't like Daniel, they wanted to find something wrong, but they couldn't find it, because Daniel was good in everything and he did everything right in the eyes of God. And so, my little friends, we can learn here from Daniel that we should do everything right. We should not lie. We should not steal. That is what we can learn from Daniel. And also, my dear little friends, Daniel prayed 3 times a day. You must pray, my friends, when you wake up in the morning and before you go to bed at night. You must thank the Lord God for your life, for your family, for the food, and ask God to protect you and your family. And Daniel prayed 3 times a day, and God heard Daniel's prayers and saved Daniel from the lion's den. And I hope that you enjoyed this story. Until next time that we will be bringing to you another one of the Bible stories. But my dear little friends, remember that Auntie loves you, but Jesus Christ loves you much, much more. And stay safe until next time. Bye.